It takes a lot of ingredients to fix or build a car, like cooking, but without the frozen dinner easy way out. eBay Motors has 122 million parts. It's always the right fitment, so you can follow any recipe to a T. Whether it's a vintage Italian coupe that's classic like Grandma's meatballs or a German luxury car that's as complicated as Oma's rouladen, to cook up something great in the garage, use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Elmo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more. Welcome to Elmo's World Podcast. This is Elmo, your host, and I am with my friend Robert Butler. Bro, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, like you said, my name is Robert. I run the Church of the Basement Dragon Facebook page. It's a secular humanist Facebook page dealing very pro-science, occasionally religion, culture, politics, whatever happens to be the issues of the day that I deem relevant. I am a freelance writer. I write mostly fictions, as well as a soldier. I've been in the American military for over 20 years, nearing my retirement here shortly. And I regularly engage in public discussions on the sorts of topics that my friend here addresses. So, is there anything else you'd like to know?
Well, I'd like to ask you about why you do all that stuff. You're someone who lives your life, and you sort of, I guess, dwell on the intellectual side of things, more on discussions about philosophy, politics, and stuff. So why do you live this type of life?
Well, I happen to enjoy engaging in those particular types of subjects, and I see real value in having my own views challenged and in challenging the views of others. Now, on a fundamental level, you might say, and I have been accused of this, and if somebody wants to go that far, I'll accept the title of atheist evangelism, which I have to admit, the first time I heard that, it gave me a laugh, but I won't necessarily deny it because I do promote humanist views, and I am, you might say, militantly anti-theistic. I don't like any particular religion in general. Some are worse than others, but I don't really have particular fondness for any of them. And some of them I consider outright harmful. So challenging those, especially in today's world where they can be harmful influences on our society in general, is, I think, important.
Yeah, okay. Well, other than that, I guess that would you say there is an objective purpose in your life as to why you're living it, or is just that I'm just here, I'm living it subjectively according to how it appears to me that you should live?
Oh. Okay, so this is going to get complicated. I really wish I could give you a simple black or white answer here, but I will keep it as simple and straightforward as I can. When you say something is objective, that means it is independently verifiable or that it is in some way goal-oriented. My objective is to go from A to B. I had a medical appointment this morning. My objective was to get there and get home. That is objective by definition. It was independently verifiable that I was there. It was definitively true. It was an objective part of reality that I went from A to B and back again. So if we take objective by its strict definitional terms, then yes, I have an objective goal for my life, an objective purpose. I have defined that purpose myself, and you could say that yes, accurately, that is subjective. But the subjective can in fact be objective. Take, for example, something as simple as measurements. Inches or meters or whatever measuring system, past, present, or future, is ever applied, are things that people subjectively created. They could have been different, but they're uniform. An inch is an inch is an inch is an inch. A meter is a meter is a meter. Even though we subjectively created these things, we can objectively verify them.
I guess so, but then it's only objective subjectively, right? Something can be objectively subjective, but the question is, right? Like, I guess though when you define these things, it could work that way. But what I'm asking is about teleology, like for example, meaning.
Okay. So usually when somebody asks me that question, what they're asking is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is if there was some objective purpose for my existence that was externally imposed by the universe or a deity or anything like that. And to that, my answer is the very simple no, there is not. And I don't believe that's true for anyone.
Okay.
I think some people believe there are. But my question in return is, why on earth would that even be desirable? I chose my career. I chose to write. I chose to go into the military. I chose to marry, have a family, have children. All of my hobbies were my decisions. All of my pets were my choices. None of these things were externally imposed upon me, and I wouldn't have been happy if they had been. So why would it be in some way desirable to have some other entity decide why we exist? To me, I am far freer than anyone who is devoutly religious and believes that they have been designed with some purpose in mind could ever be. Because from where I'm sitting, the devout who insist that they are made with some purpose are essentially putting themselves into a prison that they are not free to leave and told to be happy about it.
Okay. But aren't you? But I have two questions then. Like, aren't you sort of strawmanning the other position, right? Like, I don't think you have an exhaustive knowledge of what the alternative is. And another thing though is like, when you say you have choices, it's funny how you can have choice in a purely naturalist universe, right? Like, what is choice? What is like? Did you really choose anything in that case?
Well, that's getting
two broad
into the
topics,
whole argument about free will. Sure,
Yeah,
those are very
too-
broad topics.
too broad.
Now, as far as to deal with the former first, I did grow up in a very devout Christian household. My mother told me point blank that the purpose of life was to please God. That was our purpose. I have heard a number of people argue that the purpose of life is nothing but a test, that it is meaningless other than as a test, and it's all about what happens after death. Now, there may be religions that don't take it this way. There may be people within those religions who don't accept those as the reason to be. They may believe that they were put here to do a particular thing for the service of their God. But they're still talking about something that is externally imposed upon them, decided for them, and guides their life, independent about whether or not they would have chosen it for themselves. There may, if there are those who just happen to believe that their purpose coincides with all of the things that make them happy, great. I'm glad that they're happy. This is their only life, regardless of who tells them otherwise, and I'd rather people live it contentedly than not, as a general rule. But at the end of the day, there's no reason to believe that there's any other option but to define our lives for ourselves. And I don't know why people want to put that in some other figure's hands, real or imaginary. To answer your second question regarding choice and free will is one of those things that gets very tricky. At the end of the day, free will, really, in the simplest of terms, is just the capacity to have chosen otherwise, the ability to do something different. You've got choice A, B, C, D, what have you, and you choose A, but because you had free will, you had the capacity to have chosen B, C, D, etc. I believe, as near as I could tell, that I have free will. I don't think any of us have any other option but to live as if we're engaged in making choices. Do I necessarily have it? Well, all the choices are made by my brain. I am my brain. My brain is all that I am. Every aspect of my personality, my traits, etc., all the chemicals that make me up, that's all me. So if that's what's making the choices, then I'm making choices. If it is, in fact, nothing but a bot of some sort that is just going through the motions, okay, I have no way to determine that that's true or if that's false. So I have no choice but to live as if I'm making choices. I don't know if you were part of a discussion on determinism, but that we had some time ago. In that discussion, a hard determinist who asserted that there were no choices acknowledged that you can't really live a deterministic life. You're always engaged in the thought process of evaluating options and making decisions. It's one of those things that even if it is true that we have no choices, it's a functionally useless truth because we can't change it.
Okay. I guess then, before I guess we could tackle this this after like the first one. Okay, I want to ask something about the first one and then I come back to this. Right. So the first one is that you made a value judgment about having a life that has been given purpose, and then when you were asked a question about it, you qualified all other views, saying that okay, if you want to live your life that is if you have an intrinsic meaning, fine, then you have it in your own life, but I'll simply have it in mine. So in a way, that's sort of just really irrelevant in terms of the argument on whether or not you have objective meaning in your life, right? You might think it's bad or good, but it's really irrelevant to whether you do have one, right? So, and the second thing about the free will. Okay, you can answer. Then we can move on.
Well, what I was going to say was, supposing hypothetically that some external being that created everything decided everyone has a specific reason to be, whatever that might be. Well, we have no way to determine whether or not that is actually true or what that is or verifying it. And why would I live any part of my life on the basis of somebody else telling me that this other thing wants me to do X, Y, Z, or doesn't want me to do A, B, C? It makes no sense. I'm ultimately responsible for the evaluation of my choices and the way in which I live, and I see no reason to put that into somebody else's hands. Quite frankly, I do fine on my own.
Okay.
So, yes, okay. I make value judgments, sure. I mean, I think you kind of have to make value judgments. I don't see anything wrong with making a value judgment. I value the health, happiness, and well-being of humanity and of the world at large. I have 6 dogs I value a great deal. I have imposed that value on them, and I'm okay with that. Where's that a problem?
Okay, I'll get back to that. Noted. But when going back to your free will, you said that you don't really take a position on whether or not we are determined or indetermined, have free will or don't have free will. You simply accept the fact that you live your life as if you have free will. and you're satisfied with that. Okay, like can you elaborate on that, right? Like so would you being a deterministic automaton, make a difference on how you perceive your life having free will, or at least appearing to have free will? Would it make be any difference, I guess, if that is true?
Honestly, I honestly don't know how that would change my perceptions. It's that requires a degree of speculation that is a little bit farther. I would like to think that it wouldn't really change my views because, or how I live or how I see things, because nothing else about it has changed. The only thing I would be given to understand is that I truly have no choices. Now, that being said, I'm not sure where this would fall on the spectrum of free will versus determinism, but I would say that there is a degree in which we don't necessarily have a complete sense of free will. And certainly some people clearly don't. A person who is schizophrenic doesn't have a layer of sanity just beneath the surface. They can't just stop being schizophrenic because they want to. A person whose conscience, the aspect of their brain that is responsible for moral reasoning and empathy and so on and so forth, that drives them to destructive behavior, didn't choose for that conscience to not develop. Someone I worked with a long time ago had a younger brother. He had a head injury as a child that damaged his ability to engage in impulse control. And as a result, he spent his life in and out of prison. I think we can influence our own minds by what we choose to consume, choose to expose ourselves to. We can, I guess you could say, hack our own brains to make our own lives better. And that's kind of what you're doing, isn't it? When you talk about changing habits and imposing a routine on yourself.
But that still doesn't answer the question, right? Like, if I'm sort of a very imaginative person, and if I have come to realize, if I have come to a knowledge, let's say that a really awesome or really smart scientist, a reliable authoritarian, he authoritative, he told me that I don't have free will and every choice I make is an illusion. And so how would that affect my thought process every day? Would it make any difference in that case? I don't really have a good answer for that question. I honestly don't know how that would change. Since I don't have it, it would just be pure speculation. I don't think it would change much. The only thing I think it would change, and this is just guesswork, since again I don't have this knowledge, but the only thing I think it would change is that I would make more efforts to kind of brain hack myself into a better life. Okay.
I think I would probably make, our very language is structured around the concept of choice. So it's really, really even difficult to talk about how I would choose to do this. Am I really choosing? I think my brain would divert itself into such a way that I would improve my life through differing exposures, is a really awkward and clunky way to say it. But again, that's totally guesswork on my part. I think that's how I might respond.
Okay, then let me reframe the question, right? Okay, let me reframe the question, right? Like in civil courts, right? You say, for example, if someone was schizophrenic, and because you say that person sort of doesn't have free will anymore because his choice making abilities is hindered by his disability, right? So in a way, he doesn't have free will. So if he were to kill someone, he would go to a mental hospital because of it for psychiatric help, and not in a prison, right? So I think that would be your decision as well. So
right.
when you come to realize that you yourself also don't make and have any choices at all, similar to that schizophrenic person. Like, we are no different. All our choices are simply caused by the Big Bang or something. So there is no accountability there. So why aren't we all just headed to psychiatric hospitals and stuff? It's sort of a, you know.
Yeah, it does present a quandary. And when you get right down to it, I honestly don't know what we would do differently. Now, I think our current, at least here in America, the prison system is structured very much towards punishment and not towards reform. Other countries do a much better job. My country's recidivism rate, which is returning people who leave prison, ending up going back to it, is around 70%. In countries, I want to say Norway, maybe Denmark, I've forgotten which one, the recidivism rate is around 30%. So they're doing something differently to influence the criminal population than we are. We know that our brains respond to stimulation. We know that how we necessarily respond isn't always entirely up to us. Anger rises whether we want it to or not. Do we make a choice about how we respond once it arises? Well, if determinism is completely true, then no, we don't, and nothing would change that.
Exactly.
So, at the end of the day, I think if it did come down to it, all that would really change is we would try to, hopefully rationally, determine what creates the best possible sensory and pleasure-based experiences for humanity, and do that en masse, and just completely ignore the idea that we have any choices. But I mean, it's a purely academic argument because, well, we don't really know. I mean, do we choose our own brains? No. Do we choose necessarily how they develop? No. They're developed based in part on our diet, in part on our exposure in early years. We know that children who are abused become violent themselves with much greater regularity. These are all facets that we recognize that occur independently of whether or not that infant and child growing up into an adult has any control over. So much free
I guess
will
your
do they
answer, So I guess your answer would be that being a determined automaton does have an effect on how you would perceive your free will, right? Especially as you said that even in the academic realm, these topics make policies, including the justice system and how we vote and stuff, right? So I get how. So how about this? How about this question? If you say that you might be determined, you might be not, but you're just gonna live as if you have choices. So isn't that sort of just a pragmatic decision rather than something purely rational?
I would say it's rational to be that kind of pragmatic. If there was some way to determine the truth, I would want to know it. If there were some way to prove I would definitely want to know the truth. I value truth. I think truth leads us to the best possible decisions most of the time. I am what you might call a pragmatic empiricist. Find the truth and demonstrate it, measure it, make sure that you understand how it applies to reality. If there were some way to determine whether or not free will was a real thing or not, I would definitely want it done. Excuse me.
Okay.
But I don't know of any such test. So I have no choice but to live as if I'm making choices, which is kind of ironic.
But I guess though that you're sort of living on sand, right? Like drifting sand, because the thing is that when you use that kind of methodology, right? I agree that pragmatic empiricism could be useful for scientific purposes, right? Like making machines, chemistry, medicine, and stuff. But when it comes to the metaphysical understanding and induction and trying to comprehend meaning and free will. Well, I don't think pragmatic skepticism is the best method for that. And you would agree, because in a way you're living your life as if you have free will, but I don't think that comes from any pragmatic empiricism, right? You didn't empirically observe that you have free will. And also, like, how, if you rely on pragmatism for your rational arguments, that still doesn't make that makes sense and hold up.
Well, it's not going to. Well, I would say that the cold reality is that since we have no way to determine whether or not we really have free will, it's not that it's pragmatic empiricism to live as if we don't, but it's the only pragmatic choice. Because what is the difference between living according to the idea that you have free will and living according to the idea that you have none? At the end of the day, you're going to get up in the morning, have breakfast, go to work, pay your bills, interact with friends, family, neighbors, pets, what have you, and continue on one way or the other. Nothing changes. It's one of those things, well, if you don't have it, you can't change it. And if you do have it, you can't get rid of it.
Okay. I guess, though, that in sort of pragmatism isn't the best definition for this. I would call this just induction. What you're doing is basic induction. You know, when you, like, if I don't have free will,
Rose by any other name and all that.
Okay, so but a rose is still a rose, though, right? And so it's still.
And at the end of the day, we're still living the same way, regardless of whether or not determinism or free will is, or whether there's some kind of blend. I think. Like, remember I mentioned earlier that I'm a freelance writer?
Yeah, I love your writings, man.
Okay.
But
so, thank you.
Okay.
When you're starting off as a writer, one of the first things that people will tell you is that you have to write, all right? You have to get into the habit of writing. You have to do it every single day, all right? And getting into a habit of doing things on a daily basis that sometimes may be difficult, or sometimes you just don't feel like doing. It's not easy to build those kinds of habits, and that's why most aspiring writers never write anything, or they give up very quickly before they accomplish anything, because they can't or don't get themselves into the habit. It is now routine for me to write, to the point where I don't consciously make the choice to do it. I just, at a given time, go to my computer, sit down, and start writing. It is just a functional part of my routine as much as anything else. And fitness nerds, or fitness buffs, I guess I should call them nerds, but fitness buffs will tell you the same thing. You get into the habit. It takes a specific amount of time. Neuroscience tells us it's 18 weeks or so. Could be misremembering that, of conducting a routine of, say, going up for a jog, before it just becomes part of your day and you're not really even thinking about it. It's just part of your routine that you do, and that's the end of it. Breaking habits, making habits, these are all activities in the brain. You can actually look at brain scans of people who are, as habits are being broken, these are connections, physical parts of what we are, that are forged or broken on a chemical level. How much of that is free will? I mean, I honestly don't have a good answer to that, and I don't think anybody really does. So, to one degree or another, we manipulate ourselves, and it's just not a bad thing.
Yeah. Okay, but the question that I was always asking you from the start, like, you say that you pragmatically decide whether or not you're gonna live with free will or not.
Well, let me
right?
rephrase that. If that's what I said, I don't think that's quite what I said. I believe what I said was that, pragmatically speaking, there's no other option. Since we have no way to determine one way or the other, what changes? If you decide you have no free will and you have it, then you haven't changed anything. If you decide you have free will and you don't, you haven't attained it. it's one reason why I really don't generally engage in the whole free will question very often, because it serves no purpose. It's a meaningless thing to me. I have no other option but to live the life that I have. So since it's not something that will change anything about my life,
I disagree though. I disagree, right? Like I think that deciding whether or not we have free will is 10 times more important than deciding which president we're gonna pick or we're gonna vote for. Because I think that it is ultimately important for me whether I will live my life as if I have a choice, or I'm gonna live my life whether I'm a robot. Right? I think that is really, really important, and I think you would agree. Right?
Well,
but the question is, how do you decide? And you told me that your decision was made because of practical reasons. Well, I'm just gonna. It appears to me that I want to live my life, and so I'm gonna live my life as if I have a choice. Right? If I live my life as a robot, I won't enjoy it in this way, in a particular manner that I wish it would go. So I'm not gonna live my life as a robot. I think I don't think we have a choice but to act as if we have free will. There's simply no way around it. Everything about our language and our behavior is structured around the concept that we're making choices, and we can talk about the choices that we're making and why we're making them, and come to reasons why we do so. So it's one of those things where, but did you choose your brain? But did you choose those thought patterns? Did you, the further back you go, the more iffy it becomes. Even the very definition of free will, beyond saying simply, I could have made a different choice. Once you get past that, it's really, really iffy, to the point where it's very poorly defined. And there's certain things that we don't necessarily have free will about. For example, I could not believe, I can't convince myself that there's a God. I don't believe it. Being convinced one way or another happens whether I want it to or not. I didn't choose to be an atheist. I was convinced over time, over a period of years, that the views that I had previously espoused as true were not. And my beliefs were eroded. And when I was very young, that was something that I was afraid of. I was taught to fear non-belief, and that the punishment for not believing was too horrible to imagine, and so on and so forth. I can't just decide, Christianity is true. I have to be convinced. And I didn't decide necessarily to be convinced one way or another about any of those things. That happened regardless of whether I wanted to. I guess, though, that you have a belief in your free will, right? Because you just practically chose to have free will.
Well, I think it's one of those things where, how shall I put this?
Intuitional?
I have, to give you a simple example, I often turn to coffee cups and coffee because I have both around me frequently, as you know. But I enjoy the flavor of caramel. I enjoy coffee. I enjoy cream and sugar and all of those wonderful things put together. All of those create pleasure sensations independent of whether I choose for them to do so. All right. So on my way home from my appointment, I decided I would go through a drive-through to order this. And I did so. I made that decision before getting there. I said, okay, I enjoy these things. I have spare time on my hands. I'm going to pass by there anyway. And I can afford to indulge myself in a little treat before I sit down and write a handful of chapters. I evaluated the pros and cons as I understood it, and came home with coffee as a result. I believe I made choices there. All of those choices were chemically based in my brain and the things and those aspects of myself. So I think that was free will. If that's not what free will looks like, then I don't know what free will is, and I would appreciate somebody telling me.
Okay. I guess then we have to like look at the definitions, the proper ones,
Yeah,
and
I mean, what is
ones you would agree with too.
Yeah, what is a decision? What does free will versus not free will look like? I mean, we could compare. Like I've got a computer. We're on a computer right now. The computer isn't making any judgments about the functions that it's engaged in. We're manipulating all of it. It is a non-sentient, non-sapient thing that just processes data. It has no choices. I think we would all agree on that. We're not at the Ghost in the Shell level technology yet, which if anybody doesn't know that reference, please look it up. You'll love it. All right. So that doesn't have free will. But presumably, when I was deciding what computer to acquire, I evaluated the benefits, I evaluated my needs, and made a rational, pragmatic decision based on an understanding of what was available to me, how long it would take to get here, and how much it would cost versus how much I could afford, and what I would gain from it. To me, all of what I did looks like free will, and all of what the computer that I now have is doing is not. If somebody wants to assert that none of what I did was free will, I would love for them to show me what free will looks like in action.
Okay. Well, I think that we can move on from that and maybe put a pin on it. But
Sure.
I guess that I sort of have a hint on your understanding of the cosmology of the universe. Basically, it's purely material, no God whatsoever, maybe multiverse, maybe no beginning, or infinite regress for the start of the universe. Would I be correct?
I don't know if there's a multiverse. I love the idea.
Okay.
But I don't know that it's a thing. As far as the beginning of the universe, that gets iffy. I mean, when you say something begins to exist, well, take, for example, going back to my coffee cup here, when did my coffee cup begin to exist? Did it begin to exist when it was complete? Did it begin to exist when it was painted, when it started to be painted? It's got a nice little Christmas theme going, despite the fact that it's not even Thanksgiving yet. What about when the McCafe symbol was drawn on it? What about when the cap was put on? What about when it was nothing but paper and it was being assembled? When does something begin to exist? Could you argue that our universe hasn't begun to exist because it hasn't entered its final stage yet? Is it still in process of becoming something different? Where do you draw these lines? And when we go back to the beginning of time as we understand it, well, these things get iffy. I'm not a cosmologist. I personally think it's likely that the universe had a beginning, but what form might have caused it to be, I don't know. I think the time to believe something about that is the time that something about that is demonstrated to be reasonably true. Why would I lock myself into any particular belief before it is shown to be reasonably true? That's one of the areas where I think religion falls short. I don't know, therefore I can propose a God and say that God did it, but there's no evidence, there's no justification, there's no corresponding value to it in terms of our knowledge. It's just asserting a solution to a problem wherein the solution doesn't have any, not only has no explanation, but has no support for it. You could just as easily make up trans-dimensional aliens with really kick-ass technology as a god and lose nothing from the argument.
Well, I don't think that that's the only argument theists make, but okay. Sure, we can
Well, it's not the only one, but none of the others are none of the others are any better. For example, like the argument that the universe was designed for us is just puddle theory. We evolved to fit the universe. The universe wasn't designed for us. If it was designed for us, it was really, really badly done because this world regularly exterminates life on it with an insane regularity. And we are the descendants of survivors from repeated mass extinctions. That's not a world that looks like it was designed for life. Life is a very thin film in a sea of emptiness and destruction and death. And that's just this planet.
But
Forget the rest of the
I want
universe,
to
part
ask
of which
though,
is responsible for at least one of those extinctions.
I want to ask though, what is your understanding of the universe? I don't want to know. I don't want to ask about what Christians or theists believe. I want to know what your position on the universe is. Right? Do you believe that there's nothing else? Because you believe that you have free will. So what about your beliefs on the universe? Maybe how do you live your life knowing that it's infinite and that maybe the existential reasons or causes or implications from the universe, your understanding of the universe. I want to dive into that.
My view on that, sure. My fundamental view on that is that it's trivia. Nothing about that would change anything in my life. It doesn't. I'm not a professional in a field where that's relevant. So it's interesting. It's fascinating. It can be beautiful even. But at the end of the day, it would be, it really is fundamentally trivia. To me, the big questions in life, all right, the biggest questions are not things like, well, how did the universe get here? That's a big question for a cosmologist. That's a big question for a physicist. That's a big question for people who are literally paid to answer those questions. To me, the big questions in life come down to two fundamental things. The first is, how do we tell what is true versus what is not? And the reason for that being because we make better decisions based on true information than false information. All right. The second big question in life is, how do we best live together? What is the right thing to do, essentially? Because we have to share space with one another all around the world. We have no other planet to go through. We have no alternative ways to go anywhere else. Since we have to share space, how do we get along? How do we determine what's the right way to treat each other, the right way to live? And those are the things that have actual real impact on the world in which I live. If I were to believe, hypothetically, that prayer would cure disease, and it didn't, then by ignoring medicine and relying on prayer, I would end up doing a great deal of potential harm. If I were to believe that medicine worked, and it does, then I would dramatically increase the quality and quantity of life for others. So that's where an example where determining truth from falsehood has a very practical, pragmatic application. The whole idea of the very value of truth is that we can make better decisions on that basis. If we lived in a universe in which the only way to do good things and for good things to happen was to believe things that weren't true, as weird as a universe as that might be, which might make an interesting story actually, then we wouldn't care to fact check anything. We wouldn't care what was actually true. The only time we would want to know what was true was so we could believe something that wasn't. But that's not the universe we live in. We live in a universe where the truth, the facts of reality have a greater benefit than anything false ever could. Occasionally you can get the stopped clock thing where a wrong belief has a benefit. Somebody once said, well, if somebody believed all mushrooms were poisonous, even though all of them aren't, well, they would avoid poisoned mushrooms by avoiding all of them. Okay. Yeah. But they're still missing out on helpful mushrooms, beneficial ones.
Okay,
ones
but
that
I guess then that I guess you find cosmology irrelevant to and its implications irrelevant to your life, because your focus is here. You were born, and you have like maybe until 100 years old to live your life, and you want to maximize it, optimally pursue happiness, and grow raise your family, and maybe retire someday, and that's it. Nothing is other than that is irrelevant to you. Would that be the case?
Not quite. The future beyond myself is relevant because I care about humanity. I care about people. And that will include people that aren't necessarily even born yet.
Okay.
My daughter may have children, grandchildren, and that I don't meet, or they will have children. There will come a point where I have descendants that I will never have known and will not even know my name. And I want to leave behind me the best possible world for them and thereby make the best possible choices.
I want to dive into that because, I think that metaphysics is irrelevant to you, free will, theology. I think that we could focus on your axiology, which is that your values, right? You say you value humanity. You also, I think that, and I would 100% assume that you also value your family. You love your country as well.
I do.
Also, you value your life as well, especially everyone does. But I guess in your moral actions, these are things that you would never deny or question. But why is that?
Why do I value the people and myself? Is that what you're? Could you clarify your question just a little bit?
Well, yeah, okay. I guess that why do you have these values? Did you choose to have these values, and do you have like a foundation or framework or pillars as to why you have these values, or any particular reason?
Sure. Health, happiness, and well-being are the foundations of my moral system.
Okay.
Those are the things.
Your happiness. Specifically, whose happiness and well-being?
When I say foundational, I mean that's something I apply across the board. For example, there's that old saying, I don't know if they have it in your country, but as easy as taking candy from a baby.
Yeah.
Ever heard that one? No. All right. So it would be really easy to walk up to a kid that's on the street and enjoying their ice cream cone and take that ice cream cone from them and enjoy that ice cream because the ice cream would taste really good. All right, fine. But on the other hand, moral question, should I do that? Why shouldn't I do that? And the question comes down to health, happiness, and well-being. I must apply the same standard to myself as I would to others, and to others as I would myself. I would not want that done, ergo, I won't do that. In order to live cooperatively, because humans are a social, cooperative species, we need each other. We have to find ways to live and work together. Therefore, we must give people the same value that we give to ourselves in order to maximize our collective well-being, health, and happiness.
I guess I would want to dive into that later, but I want to ask you and take you a step further back then. But why value happiness and well-being? Why? Maybe you would say like an irrational reason for it. I would accept that if that's the case. Like it just appears to me that I value.
We live better lives that way. I mean, I don't know.
But why would you prefer? But the question is, like, rationally, why would you prefer to have a better life, and why have life at all?
That's a really kind of weird question. Why would I want to be happy? Why would I want a better life than a sucky one? I mean, that's.
No, but what? Yeah, but the question is like, you say that you have choices, right? And your choices, and you measure your choices through hierarchies, and you have specific reasons as to why you choose something, or from A to other than B. And so the question is, right? Like, but why is the rational reason as to you would prefer well-being or happiness or life in particular?
Well, because that's how we evolved. I mean, we evolved to preserve our own lives, protect our species, protect our fellows, and live and work together. That's how any species, to one degree or another, must necessarily evolve. I mean,
so in a way,
you'll find that in.
So
I mean, could you imagine a humanity that literally didn't want to exist? I mean, how long would that last?
Well, a lot of people don't want to exist. You know, it's already happening. But the question
I'm talking species wide. Species wide. The very fundamental. The fact is that life.
Well, we could. Well, we could. I think, like, for example, corals or rocks. You know, they sort of also gone through the naturalistic process of evolution, because, like, there is no soul in evolution.
Well, no, rocks don't evolve.
There are no different.
Well, no, rocks don't evolve.
Okay, well, not biologically, I guess, but everything goes through these naturalistic.
Yeah, sure. Everything goes through natural processes, but we're not rocks. Just like I have been asked by some Christians in the past, will lions kill whenever they want to, so why can't I? Well, you're not a lion. So why are you trying to act as if how lions exist in nature is how people do?
Okay.
We are, Homo sapiens. So we abide by.
I'm confused though, bro. Like,
our species.
Okay, so if you were I would ask you why you value happiness and well-being and health, and you answered because you evolved this way. Would you? That would sound weird to me, right? Like, for example, if I told my wife, like, yeah.
Yeah, when you get well, that's because the question itself is very, very weird. I mean, if somebody asks you, well, why don't you want me to break your leg? Why do you value having 2 intact legs? It's a really weird question.
Well, I guess a lot of people. I guess those questions are important too, right? We need to ask them, and we don't have answers.
I don't think it is. I honestly don't think it's important to ask, well, why do we want to be happy? The important question is, how do we achieve happiness? And
but dude, like, come on,
the root of the question, the root answer to the question of, well, why do we want to be healthy, happy? Why do we want to be safe? Why do we want to live?
Because you evolved that way?
Right. Because life took that path in evolutionary terms. The answer may be strange to you, but that's the brute fact of human life, and not just human life. I've got a 78 pound to 87, I'm not sure what he weighs now, I think about 87 pound Labrador, and he's got his eye on this little chew toy that squeaks. I do that little squeaker, and he perks his head up. He wants this toy. It makes him happy to have this toy. It's adorable until you remember that this toy, he likes to squeak because it sounds like a dying animal. All right, they're wolves at heart, and they like things that sound like animals in pain.
But the question is, do you live your life as if do you live your life that way? Like, that thinking that I prefer happiness because I evolved this way. Is it really is that part of your thought process?
Is that something that? No, of course not. I mean, how often would that come up? At the end of the day, the question is not how did this species that I am part of determine that these are factors that are part of my biology, because that's just not how you're going to live. That's not how you're going to function. The question that I ask is, well, what's the right thing to do, and how do I determine what that is? And one of the nice things about being a secular humanist is that I am not tied down to any one answer. If I turn out to be wrong, I can correct myself and say, okay, this seemed like a good idea at the time, but I was wrong and have to adjust fire. so to speak, and do things differently.
Okay.
One of the things
Okay.
I'm very critical about when it comes to religion is the inability to engage in self-correction.
Okay, but let me clarify my understanding of what you just told me. Because I'm trying to understand your worldview, and this is what I seem to understand. But you could correct me if I'm wrong. You believe you have choices, right? You act as if you have choices in your everyday life. And so,
Well, see, let me clarify there. I don't know necessarily that we all have choices.
Yeah, you don't know. Okay. You don't know, but you act as if, act as if you have choices, right?
Sure.
But you act as if you have choices. So you act as if you have choices.
Yeah, even a determinist acts as if they do. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you act as if you have choices, and when you come to a thought process like, I want to live, I want to be happy, I want to be this. And so your reasoning as to why you would want to be happy or want to live or want to be healthy is because the universe evolved, or at least formed you in this manner naturally, like from entropy into. Okay, so you're
biology,
acting upon.
It's not the whole universe that did this. Specifically, this is how life evolved. It's not that.
The
Big Bang.
But it is part of the universe. But it is part of the universe.
Yes, it is. But I want to clarify: there's a distinction between evolutionary theory and how we understand that life evolved versus, say, how the universe got here. And
okay, but would I be correct in my understanding of your worldview that you act as if you choose, and then you
self-preservation
cool.
instinct evolved. We can see where it is in the brain. We know that's part of us, and it's not hard to explain how that would evolve. And even when it's overridden, where we act to preserve others instead of ourselves.
Okay. Cool. One last question. You're a writer, man, and I read some of your writings. But in terms of philosophy, what concepts have you applied these? For example, your knowledge of morality, on life, in your writings. How did you manifest them in those?
Honestly, when it comes to writing, when I work on writing, I don't just use my philosophy. I create different characters who have a different way of viewing things, and people who are of a philosophical bent who read them will see different aspects of it. There's a character in the book, Who Endures, and that's the title, Who Endures. It's a book series, in fact. I'm on the 5th one now. But you'll see things like her mentioning of Nietzsche's will to power. She is someone who has seized authority and power over her own life at great sacrifice, and she's confronted with a fatalistic society where people believe that everything is predestined, that they have no choices, that everything in life, from whether they are free or enslaved or killed or what social class they rise to or fall from or anything, is all decided by the stars. All right. And her biggest frustration, her big frustration is breaking people out of that mindset to get them to seize control of their own lives, because that's what her belief system entails. But the thing is,
reminds me of Thus Spoke Zarathustra.
Yeah, she's the character is actually a villain. She's not totally evil, but she certainly has villainous, ruthless aspects to herself in pursuit of her goals. But it's very much an end. Do the ends justify the means? The means kind of question. And you'll see references to Machiavelli, the Prince, so on and so forth. I borrow very heavily from that. I plunder all kinds of different elements from different philosophies to create characters who act in opposition to one another. My own personal philosophy of pragmatic empiricism as the best general way to live doesn't really end up in it all that much because I try to keep myself out of my books. I don't want to create a stand-in for myself to kind of, how should I put this? I don't do self-inserts. I don't like when authors put themselves into their books because the character always ends up somehow being perfect and amazing and wonderful, like an idealized version of the author themselves, and as a result, the overall work suffers. So I try not to do that. Little elements will creep in here or there, but I do like to plunder philosophy, mythology, religion, science, whatever I can to make a compelling story out of it.
Awesome. Well, bro, if you have any final statements, anything you want to promote, please feel free. But it has been an awesome conversation with you, and I very much enjoyed it, man.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it too. If anybody would like to check out some of my work, you can look up Scales of Trust on royalroad.com. I release chapters for a number of fictional stories on there, spread across multiple different timelines and multiple different fantasy worlds and whatnot. It's a lot of fun, and I do weekly updates. So, if you're looking for something to read, and hey, if you want to support my work as an author, I don't know if you have a choice or not, but if you do and you like it, I won't say no to support on my Patreon or with donations through PayPal. Thank you very much, and it's been fun.
Okay. Well, and the recording ended, and thank you, man. So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr., and thank you for listening in, and please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
It takes a lot of ingredients to fix or build a car, like cooking, but without the frozen dinner easy way out. eBay Motors has 122 million parts. It's always the right fitment, so you can follow any recipe to a T. Whether it's a vintage Italian coupe that's classic like grandma's meatballs, or a German luxury car that's as complicated as Oma's rouladen, to cook up something great in the garage, use the eBay Motors app or visit ebaymotors.com. Let's ride.
Holidays are here, and so is fashionable fitness. Gift yourself a Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 5G, a phone that folds in half to literally stand on its own. Pair it with the Galaxy Watch 4 for ultimate wellness and wow factor. Check health stats, flex personal records. Over 90 activities can be tracked, like biking, swimming, golfing, and more. Invest in yourself with tech made to crush goals. Holidays open up with Galaxy. Shop it all at Samsung.com. 5G connection and availability may vary. Check with carrier. Products sold separately.